Off day for the Tigers on Monday, so we have some news and notes from the organization to go over, as well as a conversation surrounding what we want to see from the Tigers in the month of May. We'll do that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Welcome in, welcome all. Have an off day on Monday, so no game to go over today. But, I've come to appreciate off days a lot over the years doing this show because there are a lot of big picture conversations that I want to have that during the grind and the million miles an hour of, a baseball season where there's a game played nearly every single day, we don't have the opportunity to maybe discuss or, extract and expand our minds, if you will. Getting really philosophical here for some reason. Ridiculous. I'm leaving it in. But it gives us an opportunity to have those big picture conversations when it comes to player performance. I want to talk today about why I think Javier Baez has gotten off to a good start this year. I also want to talk about players that I think may come down to earth a little bit here looking forward. Just kind of what I want to see from the Tigers in the month of May. Now, that does not mean that I'm like disappointed with how April went. Obviously, that would be preposterous, right? They have the best record in the American League as I sit here and talk to you today. And on top of that, they have, at the time of this recording, literally the best run differential in the entire game of baseball. So this is far from me going, oh, like this is going so poorly or so wrong, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm making this list or talking about these things because I want the team to improve so much. No, if we keep going at the current pace the Tigers are going, we're all going to be pretty darn happy campers. So I want to start off with just the return of players from injury. That's like a huge one for a lot of people. Kind of goes without saying. I don't know if you can see my arm over here is just flapping around. It's because this light right here is just not working. It was flashing earlier in the show. I don't know what's happening, but this thing is, I'm about to throw the remote down the hallway. Okay, whatever. We ball. So I want to start with, obviously, one of the big things we want to see from the Tigers in the month of May is the return of all these players. Matt Vierling, obviously pretty close now, began his rehab assignment. Parker Meadows, someone that I would love to return in the month of May. Now, he's on the 60-day IL, so he can't return until I think it's like the last day or two in the month of May. It's like May 30th, I want to say, 29th, something like that. So if that does happen in May, but I would even take just him starting a rehab assignment. If he is playing baseball games at any level for the Tigers organization in the month of May, I'm a happy camper. Obviously, Alex Cobb, and I want to talk about his role a little bit, kind of expand that conversation. Winfield Perez, Jake Rogers, obviously, and even like some pitchers, maybe Alex Lang can get involved somewhere in the organization this month. John Brebbia probably will return in the month of May. He got off to a decent start this year, but the roles are really kind of the interesting conversation here. Matt Vierling, we talked a little bit yesterday. Do you play him at third base? Do you play him at center field? I'd imagine it's going to be a combination of both. I also imagine that as much as Javi has been fantastic in center field, that they are not planning on playing Javi in center field until Parker Meadows comes back. Like I would imagine that they want a little bit more of what he is used to. And I think that means Vierling's going to play a lot of center field, and Javi will then play a lot of shortstop and third base again. Sweeney's been fine, but his offensive numbers before the crazy weekend he had, and the 4 for 5 or 4 for 6, whatever it was, with a home run performance on Sunday, his offensive numbers were pretty darn subpar. And defensively, he's been mediocre. He's been fine. If Javi can still give you big time plus defense and is hitting how he's been hitting so far, even relatively close, right? Again, Trey Sweeney's numbers before Saturday were not good at the plate. So, like, the bar isn't the 300 average, 800 OPS or whatever that Javi's rocking right now. I think the Tigers still would ideally prefer that long term, at least over the course of the rest of the season. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how they navigate that situation. We'll talk about the corresponding moves here in a second. Alex Cobb is another really interesting one. Like Meadows, is going to play center. Winfield Perez, I don't know if he has a guaranteed spot on this roster, given Zach McKinstry's, great year this year. Rogers obviously replaces Nito and Brebbia. They either find a spot for it or they don't. But Cobb is interesting because there's not a single person in the Tigers rotation right now that I want to be removed from the rotation. All 5 of the gentlemen that are currently making up of the Detroit Tigers rotation in 2025, I want to stay in that role. So for Alex Cobb, and I know there were some people that were like, just when you DFA Maeda, Cobb can be kind of that long reliever. Well, now they've managed even before that. Cobb hasn't even started, rehab assignment yet. If he is healthy by the end of the month of May, the Tigers have been pretty adamant over the years on not going to a 6-man rotation. But maybe it's almost like it's a 5-man, but maybe they skip Jobe every once in a while and go to Cobb for 6. Cobb can maybe be long relief and start if the Tigers go 3 times through the rotation without an off day or something like that. I don't know how they're going to navigate that situation, but I know that the Alex Cobb contract and the signing, I should say in general, has kind of been scrutinized. A couple of things. One of these starting pitchers will 100% find themselves on the injured list at some point this year. Okay. I don't know who. I would love to be wrong. I would love to come on here and just talk about it like it was, the 2014 Tigers where like all 5 starters made, 28 or 30 starts or whatever. But like, that's not modern day baseball. That's just not going to happen. So it's good to have pitching depth. That's never a problem. And also on top of that, Alex Cobb has been pretty good when he's been healthy over the last few years. It's just that's been few and far between. And who knows, maybe he comes back and he gets injured again. I'm not sure. But having that pitching depth is not a problem if you can get and keep all of them stretched out and ready to start at any given moment. So we'll see what happens there. The corresponding moves with that is also interesting when it comes to the position player side. I would imagine that when Vierling returns, Jace Young or Justin Henry Malloy are sent down. When Vierling and Meadows return, both of those guys are definitely going to get sent down. Perez, we kind of talked about, not sure there's a guarantee if he can truly only play the outfield these days. Used to be an infielder. The defense was not good enough for the Tigers' liking. They moved him to the outfield. He's been fine there. And then I do genuinely think that there's a reality in which Trey Sweeney is not long for the roster. But I just can't imagine that he would be ranked, in the hierarchy there below Jace Young or Justin Henry Malloy. So we'll see what happens with that. We have some time until all those decisions have to be made, but this is a good problem to have. I'm really tired of, all of the like, oh my goodness, like they're setting themselves up for this huge issue, whatever. This is not an issue. This is great. This is the best problem ever to have. The Tigers haven't had a problem of like, oh my goodness, there's, too much to send down in a very long time. Like I'll gladly take crowded if it means better talent. Okay. I want to talk about now kind of my expectations for some players going forward. I want to talk about the offensive sustainability, whether it is or isn't, what I want to see out of the lineup to make it more sustainable, what we've seen from Javi, why I think he's improved. Want to talk about Jackson Jobe, what I want to see from him in the month of May, etc. And then we'll preview the Rockies at the end of the show. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered where on earth did all of my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget a lot smarter and I save a lot more. Managing your money with your partner has also never been smoother or easier with Monarch Money. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, not com, code Locked On MLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Colorado Rockies and talking about anything else that happens in the Tigers organization. I'm sorry for the horrible lighting. I'm literally going to throw this light out my apartment window. This thing is driving me absolutely nuts. I don't know why. It's like flat, like I don't even know. I'm so upset and trying to not show it. So I want to talk Jackson Jobe. We talked about the rotation and kind of the pitching before the break there a little bit. One thing that I really want to see in the month of May is just a step forward from Jobe. And I know that's a super kind of generic and blanket statement. I want to see more effectiveness on the fastball. And part of that comes with just improved command. And that's something he has to work with. We've talked about kind of throughout his starts over the season so far. You know, Jobe is at a point in development right now where his stuff is so good. Okay, it's so good. And yet he's not getting a ton of swing and miss. Sorry for punching my mic there. He's not getting a ton of swing and miss. And it's almost in some situations because the other team is just sitting fastball. They know that his stuff moves a ton. And the weirdly, like, almost downside of having stuff that moves just quite as much as his does is that it's hard to throw it in the strike zone. And so these guys are kind of just sitting and they're like, okay, if it's a fastball, I'm hacking because that's kind of the only pitch he can consistently throw in the strike zone. The sweeper and the slider and the cutter, whatever you want to call it, all of those move so much that they're not in the zone as much as they should be. And the changeup on top of that as well, same conversation. Now, the changeup is a little bit of tunneling. He's gotten, righty swing and miss on that. There's stuff to be said there just in terms of pitch sequencing and pitch mix and whatnot. But I think that one of the things I really want to see out of him, like, he hasn't gotten rocked. People are talking about the slow start to the year, whatever. ZRA starts with the number 3. Like, he's not getting crushed out there. He's just not getting as many strikeouts and as many whiffs as we presumed he would. So I think that is kind of the big step for me. I'm not asking for he needs to have this ERA. He needs to give up this many runs. He needs to have this many wins or quality starts or go this many innings, whatever. Baby steps. Just get me a fastball that you are consistently getting swing and miss on. Because right now it is literally one of, if not the lowest whiffed on fastball among qualified pitchers. And that there's no reason for that. The dude throws 99 with crazy spin. There's zero reason for his fastball to not be a high swing and miss pitch. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, Casey Mize, just want to see that this is consistent and sustainable. Nothing really, repertoire-wise that I'm looking for, and I'm like, oh, like he needs to do this or be better at this. He's been really solid. I just want consistent command. That's been a huge question mark in his career. We've seen kind of ups and downs. I just want to see this be sustained. So we'll see what that looks like going forward. As far as the bullpen goes, before we move to the offense, I want to see Will Vest continue to really dominate. He has had one bad outing. Outside of that, he's been completely and utterly dominant. A lot of that has to do with the fastball this season, so hopefully that continues. And then Bo Brisky is somebody that I've always really liked in the Tigers organization, and so far this year has either been hurt or not very effective. So he's somebody that in this pen, I'd like. He's back from injury now, has gotten a couple of low leverage situations and looked decent. I want to see him get back to the form that he was pitching at last season when he was one of the highest leverage relievers in the playoffs for the Detroit Tigers. Let's talk offense, though, because the pitching and the injuries we've known about. We knew that the pitching was going to be the strong point of this team. We knew that the team was hurt and that they were going to get some players hopefully back in May and June. The offense has been the surprise. And one of the things that I mentioned on yesterday's show that I want to dive a little bit deeper into is the home run totals that Torkelson, Green, and Carpenter are on pace for so far in 2025. Okay, so if they just maintain current pace, Spencer Torkelson is on pace for 47 home runs. Riley Green is on pace for 36, and Kerry Carpenter is on pace for actually it might be 46, 37, 37. Either way, that is the number. Now, when I tweeted these out, I said obviously this won't happen, but and a lot of people took that as me saying like obviously these guys aren't going to have good seasons or have high home run totals. All I was saying was that these exact numbers are not going to be the case. It wasn't nearly as deep as some people took it. So I apologize. I wasn't trying to slander anybody. You'd be like, oh, Torkelson's going to hit 15 homers. Obviously, he's not going to hit 47. I was just saying that the odds of these three all hitting this exact number are pretty much none. Okay. That's all I meant. I think if we can even get 35-ish from all three of these guys, that this offense is going to be decent at worst. Like the floor for this offense, if these three guys stay healthy, stay on the field, which is a huge if for Carpenter and Green, who have yet to prove that they really can over the course of a full season. Green a little bit more last year. If we can keep them on the field and at the level of productivity that they are at, and again, I'm not even asking really for the level that they've been at the first month of the season. I understand 162, it's going to go up and down. If we can just get mid 30 home run totals for all three of these guys, I think that's a massive win. And the offense is going to have a baseline of production that is going to be solid, again, decent, I'll say, at worst. Now, what can take that to the next level is the production of everybody outside of those three, assuming that they are somewhere near their pace stats. Glaber's been a massive addition for this baseball team. One of the coolest things about Gleyber is that the expected numbers are actually better even than what he has provided. So there's a lot of underlying analytics when it comes to his, the percent of time he hits the sweet spot of the bat and his launch angle and exit velocity and all that good kind of stuff that actually says that his slugging percentage should be like significantly, like over 120, 130 points higher than it even is. And he doesn't strike out and he's not afraid to draw a walk. Like he has been so fantastic. He's such a professional hitter, and he's somebody that should be, honestly, I'd hit him lead off pretty much every game. But I do understand from AJ's perspective, he's almost hitting so well, you want people on base in front of him if possible. So I understand maybe putting him in that 2 or 3 spot, even like he has been lately. Colt Keith is also going to be a massive part. That kind of goes without saying. We don't have to spend too much time on that just because I know that that's a fairly obvious statement. But he's been better lately, been on time for fastballs. That's a beautiful thing. If he can do that and continue walking at a ridiculous clip, then obviously that would be a welcome thing too. The lineup depth, the further you get down, the more question marks kind of rise, right? Is Zach McKinstry's production sustainable? I have a hard time believing, as much as I love the dude and I think that he should be playing every day as it stands right now, I have a hard time believing this dude's OPS is going to be in like the mid 800s by the end of the season, and his batting average is going to be over 300. But even if it's a little bit back down to earth, but he's still, around a league average hitter, going forward, that is still a I cannot express enough, a massive win and so welcome production from him. So we'll see. I what I do need to see is more walks from a few specific players. And that's going to help increase the production and raise the floor, as we were talking about earlier, of the production of this lineup pretty substantially. Okay, so we'll talk about that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live, the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking for last minute tickets, Game Time makes getting those tickets even easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, the prices drop as the game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal at the last second. Game Time is also the official ticketing partner of Locked On. And as the Tigers come back home this weekend, and it's only May, we have so many more ball games ahead of us, and you can count on Game Time to help grab the tickets that meet your needs. I recently grabbed tickets on Game Time for the Detroit Pistons playoff game last week. It was awesome. And even though they lost, I thank Game Time a ton for making that happen, because we got such a good deal that we just felt like as a group we couldn't pass up on the offer. And that was strictly through Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. So want to talk about walk rates, because one of the things that is, there are a few exceptions to the rule, but usually an offense's level of sustainability relies a decent amount on a hitter's ability to draw walks, right? Because you're going to get challenged with a bunch of different pitches over the course of a season. You're going to have pitchers making adjustments, scouting reports going around, etc. You need to be able to draw a walk. And right now, there are a few players that are hitting pretty well and are not walking at all. And that, I think, really needs to change if they want this lineup to be, sustainable in its run production that we've seen so far this season. One of those is Manuel Margot. Don't think he's drawn a walk yet. Pretty small sample size with him, though. The other three, Dylan Dingler almost has 100 plate appearances and still has yet to draw a walk on the season. That is remarkable. That's very high. I don't know if that's the most in baseball, but I would imagine that is very high in terms of players qualified. I don't know if that's technically qualified yet, but in the realm of qualified players that have yet to draw a walk. Kerry Carpenter has barely walked at all this season. Walk rate lower than Javi Baez at the present moment. And I know that we're like praising Javi and he's been a lot better. His walk rate's still like 4. Okay. Like it's still about as low as it usually is. But Carpenter's is like, I think sub 2 at the time of this recording, or around 2. So that's something we need to see, because he's been chasing high fastballs a lot. And I am not here to like question the hitting of Kerry Carpenter. He clearly knows what he's doing and has made a ton of great adjustments and has been the best hitter on this team over the last, calendar year and a half. But I know that it's very welcome, and I'm sure the Tigers staff is working on him to not chase as many high fastballs, because he swings at almost all of them, and to be more open to drawing some more walks there. But as long as he's doing damage, we're going to take it when we can. Just a way for him to get on base more, right? His OBP is not much higher than his batting average at the present moment, and that's something that he will want as the season goes along. Bigger and bigger sample size. And then Riley Green is barely walking as well. He had an at-bat this weekend against the Angels where he was up 3-0. The first 3 pitches were all balls, and he was up 3-0 and then worked a full count, fouled off a couple of pitches, a couple of them not in the strike zone, and then lined out to left field. And it's like, well, it's not a terrible at-bat. You get the pitcher to work a little bit, and you grind out an at-bat. You try to make something happen, put the ball in play. But his back was against the wall and he was just hacking, man. So that's another thing. Walk rate hasn't been an issue for him in his career. And this year I'd like to see him, he went through that huge slump. I'm sure he'll kind of figure it out. I'm not too worried about Riley Green, but that's something that I want to see in the month of May as well. And the reason why I call those players out specifically is because you have on the opposite end of the spectrum a couple of players whose walk rates are bound to come back down to earth a little bit. Zach McKinstry is one. His is very high. Malloy's is like dang near 20%. That might actually be sustainable, but he's not really hitting very well outside of the walks. Colt Keith's is like 18%. That is bound to come down a little bit. Jace Young, that's bound to come down a little bit. So it's just a matter of A, to what extent do those go back down? But also B, can you get more walks from other people in the lineup and not have just like, 3 or 4 people in your lineup card responsible for 80% of your walks on the season. News and notes before I send you on your way. One, base running. The Tigers have been incredible at it. First to third this year. I retweeted this. This morning for me is different than this morning for you. I retweeted this. I think it was from Codify. Let me double check just to make sure. Yeah, so Codify posted this on Monday morning. The Tigers lead baseball. They're tied with the Astros for the most first to third advances on singles in all of baseball. It's like not even close. You're like them and the Astros are just on another planet from everybody else. So I went and dug a little deeper and was like, how good has the base running just been in general? The Tigers are +4 in base running runs on Baseball Savant, and that is tied for the second most as a team in all of baseball. And the thing that fascinates me even more about that is that they are doing that without a ton of speed and stolen base threats. They have the second fewest amount of stolen bases in all of baseball. They have either the fewest or second fewest. They're very much toward the bottom in the just stolen base attempts on the season, and yet are first in the MLB at runs scored via extra base taken. So, Joey Cora, we know, is always going to send the runner and get an extra base there. So I it's a point that I love to reiterate because I know that in the moment, a lot of people are, when a runner gets thrown out on an aggressive send, people are frustrated. The Tigers have found a philosophy that works. They don't have the most speed on the planet. They don't have the best base stealers on the planet. And yet they are consistently over the last year towards the top, if not at the very top in baseball, in base running value as a team. You have to live with the aggressive sends and the occasional throwout to benefit from the amount of value they bring on a consistent basis over 162. Okay. Want to talk Javi really quickly before we preview the Rockies series. Something that I found interesting, I was comparing his analytics and kind of his batted ball data. Now, I've been very adamant on, which is probably a little lame of me to just consistently, every time I praise him, be like, I'm not sure it's sustainable. The batted ball data isn't good. But something that jumped out at me that I think is sustainable, and that gives me a lot of, I don't know, faith that not that he's going to hit 300, but that he'll be at least, solid enough to play every day, is that his bat speed has actually dropped pretty significantly in terms of average bat speed. And so I posted that and I was like, hey, look, his bat speed, which has been his calling card. In his prime, he had one of the hardest, most violent and aggressive swings in all of baseball. And over the last couple of years, Baseball Savant has started recording bat speed, like literally miles per hour through the zone. How fast is your bat speed? And he's still, even when he's hitting 188 last year, in the top 20% in all of baseball in terms of average bat speed. And so I actually had a guy online, Jason, who's an absolute dog, by the way. Absolutely incredible. I retweeted the post. You can go find him, follow him. Great basketball fan, too. But knows ball, comes from a family of ball. And he pointed out that it's not even necessarily that he is on average slowing down his speed of his bat throughout, consistently every single time he swings. It's more that the decision making is vastly different. He is swinging far softer, even slower than that number of around 75 miles an hour when it's usually around 78 in his career. It's actually far even lower than that. But the average, it's the percentage of a fast swing. So on Savant, if you hit, X miles an hour, it is a fast swing. And his has gone from over 50% a year ago to less than 20% of his swings are fast swings. Now, his home runs have been fast swings. So it's all about just his approach. It's not like he's, declining and it's like, oh, his bat speed is just slower than it was and now he's making more contact. It's actually intentionally much slower than it traditionally has been. And then when he gets in a leverage count, he goes, okay, I'm going to unleash the beast here, though. And I'm going to take a big aggressive hack like old Javi. And that's led to more balls in play, but not very much power when he slows the swing down. And then when he takes an aggressive swing, he still has the ability to, when he makes contact, hit the ball far. I think it's really fascinating, and I think it's a huge reason why he has found success so far this year. Let's preview Colorado. Okay. You got Jackson Jobe against Chase Dollander on Tuesday today. Dollander has an ERA of about 6.5. Casey Mize versus Kyle Freeland on Thursday or on Wednesday. Goodness, he has a 5.7 ERA. And then Tarek Skubal against Antonio Senzatella on Thursday. That is Senzatella. Senzatella. Goodness, I can literally never say his name. 5.5 ERA for him. The Rockies aren't good, man. This is one of the worst starts we've seen in baseball history. To 1 month into the year, they're going to have an off day going into this as well. So hopefully they can maybe take advantage of that from their perspective. Obviously, we hope they don't, and that we can just go in there, take care of business, and leave. The Rockies have the worst run differential in baseball. The Tigers have the best. Theirs is -89. They're 4-11 at home, and they're way better at home than they are on the road. They're 2-17 away from home. This is in Colorado. The Tigers obviously well over 500 at this point. The Rockies are 2-20 against teams that are over 500 on the season. They have the fewest runs scored in all of baseball. So I know that their pitching always gets a lot of crap and a lot of, stuff thrown its way and slandered a lot. Their offense has been abysmal, and they play in the most hitter-friendly park in baseball. They also have the second most runs allowed, so it's not like the pitching has been good. I just read to you the ERAs of the guys we're facing this weekend. This team is really bad. It's an awful pitching staff. It's not a very good bullpen. I like Agnos, and it's a really rough lineup. You're talking about like Mickey Moniak getting legit, every day at bats in the heart of it. Even the guys like McMahon and a couple of other guys that like you thought were going to be kind of pillars and have really good years offensively have been terrible so far this season. I do like Brenton Doyle. He's been okay at best, but he's kind of a, watered down 5-tool potential type of guy. Just go in there and take care of business, man. This is the minimum has to be a series win, and a sweep is almost kind of like the expectation now. And I've always been very adamantly, like, at least in my time hosting this show, that I don't go into any series really demanding, I should say, a sweep. But it's almost to that point here. If they take 2 of 3, I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, the series is over or the season is over. Like, this team's terrible. They lost one single game. Like, I'm not going to freak out about it, but this Rockies team is really not good. So the biggest question is, like, how does Jobe pitch first time in Colorado? Is Mize able to keep his consistency ahead too? But it hasn't really mattered. Their offense has been brutal no matter where they play. So no matter what happens, just how lucky are we that we can talk and preview a series and the expectation can be a sweep? How beautiful is that? I mean, yeah, how lucky are we? The Tigers may just be back. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow recapping Game 1. Sorry for a little bit of a longer show here. I was just, again, there's a lot of kind of bigger picture stuff that I wanted to dissect and expand on, if you will, on this off day. So we'll be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Go Tigers, baby.